stage left on that conversation.
Oh, we're live. Hello, everyone.
Hello, live world. Welcome to Buzzed HR. I'll go ahead and do our intro. Buzzed HR, where HR tech and AI collide, and we say the things that you're actually thinking, just maybe a little more out loud. I'm Marnie, here with my friend Kareen. Shree's usually with us, but he's out this week, so we're going to hold the fort for him. And every week we break down the hottest takes in people, performance, and the future of work without the corporate spin. No buzzword bingo or watered down panels, just smart people, if I do say so myself, sharp opinions, and occasionally slightly unhinged honesty and humor. Brought to you in partnership with our friends from Engagedly and the Progressive HR Brand Partnerships Network. We're bringing less hype and more signal. That's stirred up. And so I get the absolute honor of being in the hot seat this week with picking our topic and my hot take. And so I don't think it's a hot take that AI is going to be replacing jobs. We've been talking about that for months, maybe even years. But what to me is more interesting is that AI is actually in a spot to change the way that workforce looks in the future. Not necessarily just in size, but the way that we operate. It's the shape of the org charts. So it's really interesting how org charts should or could be changing now and in the near future. But if we have shrinking teams, does that mean we have less managers? If we have teams that are reducing in size because there's certain jobs that can be automated through AI, whether they're frontline or they're junior data analysts, you name it. Or on the other side of that coin, is there an opportunity because there's smaller, more specialized teams in the way the workforce looks? Is the role of the manager even more paramount than it was before? So my hot take for this week is that AI isn't exposing that managers don't matter. It's actually exposing that maybe companies have actually been doing a bit of a crap job of developing their managers to date anyway. So now we have all of these companies who are rushing to invest in these AI tools that mask the manager problem, whether it's coaching, you name it. So my key question for today is, and I wrote this down, is the traditional manager role dying? Or are we about to see the rise of a completely different kind of leader in AI-powered orgs? So I'm curious, Kareen, what you see in this. And I have a feeling that I know what you're going to say, but I'm really curious to know like what your take is on it. And do we need fewer managers or better managers?
I would say both. We need fewer and better.
Fair enough.
Is the traditional manager role dying? Yes, it was dead. I think it was dead when it started. Because, I grew up where we had very heavy hierarchical in the org chart in manufacturing and in retail sales. And the manager was picked because they were good at their job, not necessarily that they were good because they were a good leader or that they motivated people. Most often, the person that motivated people was on the team. Mm-hmm. And managers were there as to like crack the whip or to hold people accountable, supposedly. But they weren't great leaders, except for me. I think I was a really great leader.
Sure, of course. Yeah.
So funny as to one time, so I was working at New York & Company, and my district leader, so to speak, I don't know what they were called, district whatever. She came in and she said, "You're getting a promotion." And I'm like, "Oh, fantastic." And she's like, "Now, rather than you're not going to be a manager anymore." I'm like, "I'm not." She's like, "No, you're going to be a leader." Oh, I'm like, okay. So what is it like? What's the difference? And she just rattled off exactly what my job description was. But I'm supposed to motivate people. I'm supposed to lead. I'm supposed to set an example and not manage people. But anyway, I really digressed on that one. To going back, I think to your point, exactly, that AI, like it's doing all over the place, is shining the light on things that are broken, that need to be fixed.
Well, and that's the human element, right? And to your point, I remember I'm going to take a step back first too. Like, are we talking about management or leadership? Because the two to me are not the same, because Patty McCord once said, she was up on stage. She was the first like Netflix CPO, and she was on stage one time, and someone asked her about management. She goes, I don't even like to use that word, but I can't think of a better word for a manager. And it's like, there isn't a better word. We don't have a better word. We need a better word. So for me, management is like very much the role, and then leadership is what people have inherently. And so when I think of these managers, even in software engineering, so many engineering managers get promoted because they were a good engineer. Well, that doesn't necessarily make you a good leader. So what we're doing are throwing these tools at the problem and saying, okay, now we have these integrated AI coaching tools that can go into Slack, that are basically tracking employee sentiment. There's some AI tools that are tracking employee sentiment, and then they're coming back to the managers and saying, okay, by the way, you should have picked up on this, or by the way, you should coach like on top of this particular topic. So I get it. To me, where I struggle is AI is probably exposing the people who are going to lean too heavy on the AI and lose the human centricity aspect of their job, in my opinion.
I think of it a little bit differently, is like, why do I need a manager? So now if I can coach myself with AI, why do I need a manager? I know I need somebody like to talk it through, but I could also do that with AI. So why do I need somebody? Like, if I'm like a self-motivated person and I'm a high-performing person, why do I need a manager? What is the point of that?
Okay. So if the point of the manager, as far as like forward moving, iterating, like the whole leading people to the trough, so to speak, goes away. But there's one thing that we've brought up in workforce society lately, is the caring of, like, if we think of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I think we talked about that last week. Shree was really on the hierarchy of needs, and this isn't really a part of the needs, but the feeling cared for, and the feeling of, what is my company doing for me? And I don't know if we get that with AI. But that's just what I don't know. It's like, how do we know how an employee is doing outside of the parameters of their job? How do we know how we can care for an employee outside of the figurative or literal walls of the workforce? And that, to me, is that a manager at this point? Or are we going to have new roles? Like, are those roles the chief caring officer or the chief experience officer, whatever that looks like, that is in more of that heart place of the companies?
Yeah, I could see the point of having a team supporter or a team carer, that like that's what their role is. To I don't think they necessarily like provide direction, as they more as what you were saying. They provide this idea of, I'm here to support you. I'm here to help you out. That type of thing. But then you look back and like, well, I just caught myself saying, like, isn't that what HR is supposed to do?
Hey, that's true. So is that job security for HR?
Well, there's only one of us to like every 200 employees, so I don't know about that.
I know. And that's also experience design, right? So from an HR standpoint, one of the things that we talked about last week, is there a space in the human resources function to be an AI empowered workplace designer? And does that mean that we are managing the AI bots, the AI, in a way that we're designing that experience, and almost like project managing that AI experience? Does that fall in the HR realm or the leadership realm, or both?
Yeah, I think it falls in both. So, I mean, to your point, I think it's a really good role redesign for a manager to manage that as well in coordination with AR AI. I go back to this idea of the manager and managing people. And I think high performing humans that live in this modern era don't need to be managed. And I think when you put another adult in charge of another adult, only problems can happen.
Mm, yeah. No, that's fair. I so in the form of management, okay, let's talk about even performance reviews. So what does that do? I hate annual performance reviews. I hate them. I hate performance improvement plans. I have long been a staunch advocate of having coaching conversations so that we're proactive and there's no like once a year you're on a 5-point Likert scale. This is what you're scoring, and this is how it ties to your compensation. What does AI do to that, to those performance conversations? Can we automate that? Do we trust that? Like that to me is where it goes. It's like, okay, let's talk about high performing teams. How do we get to be high performing? That's usually through coaching and leadership and emulation of something. So how do we set that either standard or North Star?
Yeah, well, I think you just said it. I think you have to look at something completely different and design it to where you're not only having what you just said, and I can't repeat what you just said.
Me neither.
And then add in like a learning element. So, and I'm not talking about when we also, let's say we go back to what we think about like as the manager is that this person that helps the team learn things, but a manager doesn't do that again, because maybe there is 3 years in it. Sometimes you'll have the team member have more experience than the manager. But if I look to somebody who's been in let's just talk about like our advisor, for example, like he's been in this field for 5 to 8 more years than we have. And so he has that, I feel, is credible to like help us learn.
Yeah.
So to add that AI can't do that. AI can't take that ingrained knowledge that a person has. But you asked me about performance reviews and I went completely off on something else. So I don't like performance reviews. I think you have to reflect on your own performance. I think you have to get a 360 view of your performance, but to rate you 1 to 5, I mean, it's pretty useless. So I prefer, I do like 360-degree reviews, but if you are asking somebody to review you that's already reviewed 10 other people, you get the what do you call it, the scraps of their brain that's left. So
and also the scraps of their brain, and like they're just fatigued at that point, but I think of it with the self-run teams. Like, there's the book Corporate Rebels that came out quite a few years ago, and they like really talk about self-management teams. So in that respect, I can actually see kind of this layer of like you have self-run teams with an AI layer that is project managing the active work. And basically, you have programmers tangentially that could be project managers that are tangentially saying, this is what we define as high performing work. These are our goals. By the way, here's the tools that help align and track the team to those goals. They're going to have real-time knowledge, whether it's in the flow of their work, whether it's in meetings, whether it's in Slack messages, you name it. So in that respect, I think there's definite space for the role of manager being gone.
Yeah. But I mean, again, going back to your point, we have to, and what we've been talking about a lot is the redesign of work with the insertion of AI. you have to redesign.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't
So
just
what if,
throw AI on top of it and say, let's be productive.
no, absolutely. So to me, if I walk back into my shoes, of a startup head of people, and I am going into a corporate, like just our quarterly leadership team meeting. Like I like to wear this hat. I'm going into quarterly leadership team meeting and I'm like, okay, guess what? We don't really need frontline managers anymore. I think we should go ahead and remove that layer. And oh, by the way, everyone just trust me to like design this experience through AI and whatnot. I think I'd probably get laughed out of the room, to be honest. And so that's where like my head is like, okay, we're seeing the forest through the trees and maybe this whole redesign of the way we work. But then I think of execution and I get a little overwhelmed.
No, I think, yeah, exactly. I'm interested. We do have people watching the conversation, listening to the conversation right now. I'm interested, audience. What do you think on this? So go ahead and add your thoughts to the comments. So,
Yeah.
but when you were talking about frontline, it kind of like, I think it's different for industry. I mean, if you think about the traditional front line,
Mhm.
like I think, okay, so what I grew up in retail, in manufacturing. I think of very entry level young people
Mhm.
sometimes being on the front line.
Mhm.
And I do think they need supervision.
Yeah.
So I think it depends on the team, I think,
Mhm.
too.
I agree. And also the philosophy of the company too. What I mean is like the approach, the culture, the core values of the company. And what I mean by that is I've spoken to a lot of really great HR tech companies who have developed some really interesting technology that are either tracking sentiment, in meetings, that can provide great feedback of, look, this is the sentiment that we are getting from your team. So instead of employee surveys where it's pretty surface level data, I won't go into that. That's a whole nother topic. But uh, instead, you're getting that real time sentiment score just by the way people are interacting with each other. But in talking to them, I know I couldn't use them at this time in a lot of my client work, for instance, because that trust factor, and also going to the team to say, hey, by the way, we're going to have this AI that's embedded into every interaction that we have. And then they're going to analyze those interactions. That to me is a major trust change management issue that I'm not sure we're here for yet. And that's where managers come in, right? That they to have that real-time tracking or to be that change management leader, so to speak.
So to be a manager, but part of your role, knowing that you're managing yourself out of a position.
Yeah. I mean, as a head of HR, how many times have you? I guess I've managed myself out of a position just being in HR, going through mergers and acquisitions, last man on the boat, getting everyone off the ship, and then waving as they as the boat sinks. That terrible analogy, but that's in some cases that might be what managers have to do.
So I was watching, and I think I sent you this TikTok about the CEO who was saying that by 2040,
Mhm.
we are going to live completely different lives. We know we're going to live completely different lives, but there's going to be such a deflationary impact of AI that it will actually only take $10,000 a year to live well.
Mm. Mm.
And so if we don't have all these layers and we don't have all these, I mean, not that it's horrible what's happening with people that are being laid off right now.
Mhm.
But if they find something that they can do to eventually, make that what we consider to be poverty level right now, in the future, they'll be, right as rain because we won't, AI will lower the cost of everything.
Mhm.
So taking the hierarchy out of organizations,
Being one of them.
helping. What? Sorry.
Yeah, taking the hierarchy being one of those cost
Mhm.
reductions, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe an unnecessary evil. at the moment, or unnecessary, not so ego.
Yeah, and to me, it's like, will the system allow for it? Will capitalism allow for it? Will governmental systems allow for it? There was, I can't remember the source, but someone talking about, even with capitalism or making the right decisions, sometimes running a government is not always about, it's not, when you're running a government, you're not running a business. You are running a culture and a group of people, and some of the decisions are not economically viable, but they are important for fostering a healthy environment for your
Mhm.
constituents. Long story short, is there, to me, from a company standpoint and a governmental standpoint, there has to be some sort of, look, we understand what the right answer is and where we're trying to get to, and sometimes we have to make the unpopular decision to get from point A to point B, and it's a multiple set of unpopular decisions. So if I get back to our managers dying, yeah, probably. But from point A to point B, it's not as simple as just saying, let's reduce all of our managers, because we need them. We need them to help guide and walk alongside our teams as we're going through this major shift. And it's not going to cost $10,000 to live right off the bat. There's going to be so much pain and heartache through this transition. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like, I just see it. And so that's where we need these leaders to really step up and help get creative on how we can support each other and our companies, and yeah, in a way that's not only economically viable, but also high performing from a company standpoint.
So what I hear you say is, yes, the traditional role of the manager is dying, but then there's the rebirth of a phoenix of one
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
coming, or that there's managers that were always that way, and then they're going to be the ones that are going to be the cream that rises to the top.
yeah, exactly. And in our companies, just because you're reducing time and seat for people to do their role, do companies necessarily have to make the decision to, and I know I'm getting off kilter here, but like, I just feel it's right to bring up, if we reduce a role to say, okay, what used to take a role 5 days a week, 10-hour days, now takes maybe 1 to 2 days a week, then we're still better off. Why are we laying people off to get the same output as we did before? It's just, it takes less time. And that's a mindset shift from a company and a leadership standpoint that I really love to see these companies get to. And I know it's hard because the money, money's a thing, but come on.
I know. It's like, it's just such a knee-jerk reaction to, we need to slash X off of our balance sheet. So the easiest way to do that is to reduce headcount. Because it's not just the salaries, it's more than the salaries.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we are at 23 after. What I'm
Right.
thinking is, what if we start talking, and you sent me a few good TikToks, so if there's other more good points you want to bring up, but then I'm also thinking, if I am in, because most of the people who listen to this are heads of people, HR, like HR pros, right? So, I'm wondering, like, as of today, what should we either be doing today or preparing for tomorrow? What do we walk into that leadership team meeting with? And that's kind of what's top of mind for me.
Yeah, I know. The first thing that I think about is, we walk into the leadership team and saying, I know these are the things that are happening in the world, right?
Mhm.
Here's what's happening. This is what's happening. Let's take Block, for example.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is the backlash. So on
Mhm.
one end, here's where we could save money, right? But then on the other end, here is where redesigning or thinking about the human side of everything would help us save money.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we go back to human resources, looking at things in a business in a global, not like a global aspect about what is happening, and
Yep.
coming to the table, not just with this is what it's going to do to our people. This is how it's going to impact our culture. But yes, I know what's happening in other businesses. I know what's happening on the macro. And so here is how we could do it. I'm perfectly aware of how we could do it, but how about we do something different? And this is what I suggest. And
Yeah.
that's how I would approach it. And I mean, really look at the impact that I go back to Block again, the backlash. Do you think anybody's going to want to work for Block in the future?
No.
Block may not even exist.
No.
In 10 years.
Probably not. And that's the thing. They didn't look at it like a business problem. They looked at it just like a people and money problem. And then PR and all of that. I mean, it's just, death. So for me, and I also think of time bound, right? So we have all of these companies, not all of these, but a lot of companies that are blaming AI as the reason for going through these layoffs and whatnot. But frankly, some of the companies I've talked to and worked with, they're like, we don't know yet. Like, we're still testing. Like, we're still, we think, but we're not that good to like reduce all of this time immediately. So there's this time bound aspect of it as well. And so when I think of giving options, if I'm walking into that meeting and I'm giving options and I'm putting on my workforce experience design hat, I'm literally coming in as a designer. This is option A, B, and C. Option A is we take these leaders and we redesign the workforce. We now have project managers, we have AI enablement designers, we have whatever that looks like in your organization. But it's not going to happen tomorrow. We're not going to fire the managers. What we need to do is to empower, enable, and train them. So we have the three options. We could A, fire everyone. We're good. We got this. Fire them. Let's go. Business decision, probably not good from a PR standpoint. Option B, we go through a phased approach where we start to train leaders up on X, Y, and Z. We adopt certain technologies to help eliminate, and we go through this product roadmap. Or C, we say, hey, we're going to be the cool kids on the block, and we're going to say whatever reductions or efficiencies in work that we have today, that like we're going to use that as a case study to say this is how we have empowered our people, this is how we've reduced costs, not people, but cost, and how we're performing even higher because now we have more discretionary time, happier people, you name it. C is probably going to be less popular because, let's face it, but to me, that's kind of like where my head is at, is that these HR folks need to really be coming up with scenario building and designs and talking about it now.
Yeah. And you brought up something really interesting. And so like the product. So taking the HR out, ouch, HR. No. taking so we're being forced, not, and I say we as slightly, but we're being hit a lot about like, learn about AI, have AI literacy, have AI fluency. I think you mentioned something really super interesting, is that what if we go about it as using a product roadmap? Like, what if what we're building on our plan B, but more like C, is a product, is an app that we can build. It's something we can build. And because we have the tools now, I mean, AI can help us do this. I mean, I might be living in my own little bubble, but I just love the fact that like Teresa and Tracy and a few other people were talking about building on Lovable over the weekend.
Yeah.
Like, why do we can have a builder's mindset. We can have a product mindset. And so it's not just about like having to learn the tech, but also what goes into building behind the scenes.
Yep. So good. Like honestly, we can all be builders now, but we all have our own expertise in our niche. So human resources, we are people. So what are we building for our people? And that's great insight.
Yeah. I like that. We're people, not compliance people.
I'm not. Like,
No, certainly I am not.
gross. Ew.
Ew. Sorry, all you compliance people out
I
there.
know. Bless your heart. Don't leave.
I know. Otherwise, we'll have to do it. There's space for everyone.
Exactly. Awesome.
Awesome. Okay, so we're good to go, and thank you, the audience that was watching us, and we'll be back next week with whatever topic is on the top of our minds. And I think it's Shree's turn next week to pick the topic.
It is Shree's turn, so I can't wait to see what he says because he comes up with some really clever stuff and like really good. And anyone that's watching either today live or a recording, if you have a good topic for us to talk about, send it. Like I would love to hear him.
Yeah, I mean the furthest out of ordinary that you possibly can think. I mean, at one point, not us, but at one point there was a conversation about HR in space.
Yeah. Sorry.
So how would that look? What would that look like?
Love it. All right. Well,
Everybody,
thank you all. Talk to you later.
okay, bye.